Hi everyone, welcome to The Green Room, a place where theater people come to discuss their practice, process, and profession. I'm Jeremy Dobrish, director/playwright, and today we're doing our 5-4 segment with Tom Kitt. 5 questions for Tom Kitt. So, who's Tom Kitt, and why are we talking to him? Well, Tom is a composer who up until recently was best known for his musical High Fidelity, but this season he won 2 Tony Awards for his breakout hit Next to Normal that he wrote with lyricist and writer Brian Yorkey. Now, I've seen Next to Normal more times than I would care to admit, and I gotta tell you, to me, it's the most exciting, most moving, most beautiful musical I've seen in many years, and I really think it holds out a lot of hope for the future of musicals, and I'm really excited that we're talking to Tom today, and thrilled that he agreed to do our 5-4 segment with us.
Hi, my name is Tom Kitt. I am the composer of Next to Normal and future co-arranger, orchestrator, and music supervisor for American Idiot, the Green Day opera.
Next to Normal used to be called Feeling Electric and was much more about shock therapy. How do you, as a writer, let go of your initial impulse and allow a show to evolve to its new form?
I think as a writer, you can't be precious about anything. You have to be willing to let things go for the good of your piece. And when Brian and I started working on the piece, certainly we were very influenced by Hedwig and Tommy and Rent, great rock and roll shows, but certainly like Tommy, there was a fantastical, trippy element to it that we found was pulling people away from the story of Next to Normal. And once we lost some of those elements and really focused the story on the family and this woman's struggle, we found that the piece was truer and was reaching people in the intended way. So I think as a writer, you can be precious if you want and hold on to things, but I think if you're smart, as an artist, you'll just try to find the piece the best you can and always serve that piece in the right way, and so letting go of that allowed us to do that.
When Next to Normal closed off Broadway at Second Stage, David Stone, your commercial producer, took the show to Arena Stage in D.C., and now it's on Broadway. How did your producer's belief in the show keep it alive?
Certainly we were very blessed to have a David Stone and his incredible team of producers to transfer us down to Washington, D.C. Of course, we didn't know we were coming back to Broadway. We didn't go down to Washington, D.C. to come to Broadway. We went down to Washington, D.C. to finish working on the piece, and that was David's idea from the beginning. It was a real testament to everyone's belief in the show that they all came down to work on it. That's rare, so it meant a lot to Brian and I that not just Michael, of course, but the cast, Kevin Adams and Mark Wendland and Jeff Mashie and so many people, Judy Schenfeld, the stage manager, everybody came down, members of the band. There was a real sense of family and belief in the show. But I think the moral, hopefully, is not to rush things and squeeze things into an environment that maybe they're not ready for. And for producers to always have the best interests of the piece in mind, as difficult as that may be. And I think that David always saw clearly what was right for Next to Normal at the appropriate time. So whether it means starting in New York, going outside, coming back, or just the typical out of town to New York transfer, or maybe not to come to New York and do something differently, I think the lesson is to always serve the piece and give it the proper guidance that it needs at that particular time.
How important were Nymph and the Village Theater in the development of the piece?
Incredibly important. Writers need resources, you need places to develop your work. Village Theater from the beginning embraced this piece, and then they applied to the Jonathan Larson Foundation on our behalf, and we received grant money from the foundation to do a workshop at Village Theater. We did 2 readings at Village Theater, or I should say a reading and a workshop, and then to have that Nymph production, which is the production that David Stone and Second Stage came to see. They came to the Nymph production to see the show for the first time. I think that what we did is we managed the expectations. For example, we kept the actors on book. There just wasn't enough time for them to memorize everything. So we had them all on book throughout the show, kind of like encores. I mean, when they could get away from the book, they did. But we said, this is basically, we're still working on this. This is a work in progress, and we're able to present it as a show. We're not stopping. We have teched it, but this is what you're seeing. And if you can use those those venues in the right way, in the way that's right for your piece at that time, I think you'll be better off. So writers need that kind of support and a place to have their work shown. So they were integral to the development of this piece.
Next to Normal is the most successful theater phenomenon on Twitter. What role do you think social networking plays in marketing a show?
Anytime you can get your show out there and get people talking about it, I think that you're doing great work for your show and its life. Twitter is this phenomenon. It's very exciting, and rather than say what is it and how does it work, we just embraced it from the beginning, and it has become a really exciting phenomenon for the piece. So you can't rely on that, but Next to Normal seemed to catch that. We knew even from NYMF, from the New York Musical Theater Festival, that this had an underground buzz to it, and people wanting to talk about it and invest in these characters.
When you accepted your Tony, you were one of the few people who thanked your agent. How important has John Bozzetti been in guiding your career?
Well, it's funny, that whole element, and I think movies, and they've made fun of who people thank, and there's cliches in the speeches. For me personally, I can't speak for others, but for me, my agent John Bozzetti is a friend first. And not to say that I'm blind, that I don't see the business element of what he does, and we do have a business relationship, but John has always been my champion as a friend, as someone who's believed in me. And after the disappointment of High Fidelity, John stuck by me and willed Next to Normal. I mean, obviously David Stone and Michael Greif and my collaborator Brian, and all the people who believe in Next to Normal. I mean, that's so many people. But I have a special bond with John for how he's gone to bat for me, how he's stayed by me whenever anything goes wrong, and I talk to him about everything. I'm some people don't have those kinds of relationships with their agents, and they might say that they shouldn't, but it's been very natural for John and I to have a really close relationship. So when I thanked him and called him my agent, but I really thanked him as a member of my family.
My thanks to Tom Kitt. One of the things I find absolutely fascinating about Next to Normal and the way it was developed is that when it was running at Second Stage, and it got really good reviews, but maybe not the reviews that would take it to Broadway, that really would have been the end for a lot of off-Broadway musicals. But that team didn't give up. They heard what the critics said, they went down to Arena Stage, they made changes, they made their show better, and then they brought it to Broadway, where it won 3 Tony Awards and is having a very well-deserved long run, and I hope is going to have a life well beyond Broadway. And I really think that this paradigm offers new hope for the off-Broadway musical. But what do you think? You can post a comment at jeremysgreenroom.com. And while you're there, be sure to RSS us so you'll know when the next episode is posted. You can also friend us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to us on iTunes. I'm going up to New York Stage and Film to direct a reading of a new musical called Tina Girlstar, but I hope to be reporting back from Poughkeepsie with a very special episode. Till then, see you next time in the Green Room.